Okay, so we're going to go on with the CUDA software that factoring trinomials where a is greater than or equal to 1. And again, we just talked about FOIL, first, outside, inside, last. We know that the first times the first comes from the first section. The last times the last comes from the last section. And we know that that middle term has to come from adding or subtracting these two pieces. So the only difference between what problem we have here and the problem that we worked on last time is that now there is a number in front of my square variable that I have to consider what's going to happen to the rest of the problem when I put that number in there. For example, number 1, the factors of it's not just p squared, so it's 3p squared. So when I put down my first times my first, there's only one way to multiply and get 3, and that's to use 3 times 1. So first times first is now 3p squared. And we know that the last times the last comes from the 5, and we got sort of lucky on this one. There's only one way to multiply to get 5, and then we'd be 5 times 1. So we're going to put a 5 and a 1 here somewhere. But you noticed as you did your homework from last time that it's going to matter sometimes where you put these problems and what signs you use with them. So I'm going to be cautious only because I'm using a pen, not a pencil. I'm going to be cautious and wonder where I'm going to put that 5 times the 1. So I could put it here, or I could put it here. Not sure if either of those are going to work out for me, but those are my only two choices that I have with it. So if I do this one, first times first is 3p squared. Outside times outside is 3p. Inside times inside is 5p. And last times last is 5. Is it possible that these two numbers are going to add or subtract to give me a negative 2? Well, only if this is a negative 5 and this is a positive 3. If I do that, first times first is still 3p squared. Outside times outside is still positive 3p. Inside times inside is still negative 5p. But last times last is a negative 5. Is this the original problem? Yes, it is. So I had two choices, and it turned out I got lucky. The first one that I picked was actually the answer for the problem. So there's my factors. Okay, so let's try it again. If I have something like question number 5, I'm going to do first times first, and I'm going to do last times last. First times first gives me factors for 2. What factors are there of 2? Again, we got lucky, and the factors of 2 are just 2 and 1. The factors of 5 are just 1 and 5. So looking at the problem, I have basically only two options to see which one is going to work. And so we'll work on it. What did we get? Let's try this one. So first times first is 2v squared. Outside times outside is 2v. Inside times inside is 5v. And I can already say that I know that I'm never going to add or subtract those to get 11. So this one's already out. Let's try this one. So we have first times first is 2v squared. Outside times outside is 10v. Inside times inside is 1v. And last times last is 5. Is it possible that these two numbers will give me a positive 11V? Yeah. If the 10 is positive, and that came from the first times the inside, outside times the outside, and the 1 is positive, and that came from here, then that gives me my positive 11V. And now a positive 1 times a positive 5 is a positive 5. Is this the same as that? Yes, it is. That'll work then. Let's try another problem. Again, same worksheet, only this is page 2 of it. So what if I had something like number 11 here? So I've got the factors of 4. So that, again, I'm just going to write them down. And the factors of 25. That'll be my first times my first. And my last times my last. And you'll notice that I have 2 choices to pick from here and 2 choices to pick from here. This is the part that most students struggle with. Pick one. Just pick it. It doesn't matter whether it's right to start with. Just pick one. This is guess and check. Pick it. So I'm going to pick 2 and 2 because I can. So I'm going to get 2 in and 2 in and hope that it works. So if I have 2 in, now I need to pick one from this list. I'm going to go with the 5 and 5. So if I take first times first, I get 4n squared. Outside times outside, I get 10n. Inside times inside, I get 10n. Any way that I'm going to get 15 by either adding or subtracting 10n. Nope. This is out. So I can't use the 2's together with the 5's. So maybe I can use the 2's with the 1 and the 25. And since it doesn't really matter where you put this 2 and that 2, it doesn't really matter on what it's going to change the answer to. So had I used, and I may have to use the 1 and the 4, it all depends on where they go as to what the answer is. But let's try it. First times first is 4n squared. Outside times outside is 50n. Inside times inside is 2n. Anyway, then I'm going to add or subtract those to get negative 15. Nope, that's out. And I do like to leave the problem written there and see what my work is. Please don't erase these because you'll never know or you'll never remember which ones you did and which ones you didn't do. So let's try it again. I've tried the 2's with everything. They didn't work. So now let's go back to my 1 and 4. So 1n and 4n. And pick one. You want the 1 and 25 or the 5 and 5? I'm going to go with the 5 and the 5. How come? Because I can. So first times first is 4n squared. Outside times outside is 5n. Inside times inside is 20n. And last times last is 25. Does this have a possibility of giving me negative 15? Yes, finally I found one that might work. That's if the negative 20, and that came from here, and a positive 5, which came from here. Now if I add those together, I get a negative 15. So let's just check the last times the last. Last times the last gives me a negative 25. Is this the same as that? Yes, it is. So there's my answer. Took me a couple of tries to get it. I got to do the guess and check, and that's what we came up with. Okay, so keep working on it. keep testing. And again, I'm going to send you a couple other videos. If you don't like the method that I used to do this, then use that method instead. But somehow figure out how to make sure you know how to factor a trinomial.